back. Steve is back. I've had to put him down for the last podcast, the last 2 podcasts because I couldn't see my guests.
Yeah, well,
but now I can see my guests,
want to see
which is ironic because you're the smallest of all my guests, and I can actually see.
It's not like you need to see my face either.
Well,
You've seen me for many years.
Well, I know, but like when you have a conversation, especially if it's a prolonged conversation, you would like to stare your person directly in the eyeballs.
I don't like eye contact.
Well, that's what you do when you talk with people. You have eye contact with them, or at least you practice getting good at it.
I was like, I don't actually make eye contact. I just stare between their eyes. If I even
You're
stare.
staring between my eyes right now?
Yeah.
What about Steve? What do you stare when you look into his soft?
I'll probably be staring at Steve the entire time. Like, not even you, just...
You know what? Understandable. Steve's a little better looking
beautiful.
than I am.
He's smiling at me right now.
He's always having a good time. His temper is really well balanced because he's dead. So it works out. It's always very consistent.
Yeah, but like he's smiling because he's got those like nice teeth. Like he's just vibing. Like, and he's quiet too.
Yeah,
so.
But he listens to everything I say. He's a very good listener.
Yeah, he is. We're talking about a skull right now, like a fake skull, nonetheless.
Hey, Steve is a great skull. Steve's a great freaking
Just
skull.
because he's a great skull doesn't mean anything, but he is a really great skull.
You know what? He's a better skull than you are.
My skull is funnily shaped.
Your skull is normally shaped.
Like if I shaved my head, it would not look. Like I have the undercut, and that's enough. We don't need to see the rest of my head because my dad's bald, and I look like my dad. So he's got a funny shaped head. So we don't need that in this world. We don't need another one of those. You don't
need a bald Caitlyn. Why do you come to my doorstep with like one of those fake bald caps one day, and it's like, hey, it's an egg.
I'm gonna just be Voldemort for Halloween one year, and it's just gonna be absolutely
Harry Potter. The boy can't die.
Have you seen all those like the TikToks and like the videos that are just like people with random objects?
Yes,
like, and they're just like. It's just like a bastardization of Vada Kedavra, which is already ridiculous enough.
Yeah,
and then it just becomes. It's just grunting noises.
Have you seen Rick and Morty?
I have not.
Do you know Morty?
Is Mort.
It's Morty.
Well, is that the kid?
It's the kid.
I was
I
was like, Rick is the weird doctor like guy,
and there's
right?
Morty. It's kind of like Doc and Marty from Back to the Future, but like cartoon form and much more vulgar.
Yeah, I was like, I know it's vulgar.
So someone did Morty, but sang a Vada Kedavra like, Harry Potter, the whale is. Jeez, Rick, come to die. I can't do the Morty voice.
Isn't the same that guy that does Lemongrab's voice from Adventure Time?
Man, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is because it sounds a lot like him. Like Lemongrab has a very distinct like.
You know what? This is unacceptable. Anyway, that's a long intro.
That was very.
I'm keeping a lot of that in there. We're gonna keep a lot of that in there.
Just like random clips of it.
We'll keep random clips of it.
You're a pineapple.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is this is a show. Thanks for watching it. If you're watching it, if you're not watching it, you're not hearing this part. Thank you. This is Caitlyn. Caitlyn is on the podcast today. Small Caitlyn. She's my friend. I call her Small Caitlyn because I have a lot of friends who are named Caitlyn, but she's my.
I'm the original.
She's
Caitlyn.
the original Caitlyn.
Yeah.
She's the smallest Caitlyn. She's the Caitlyn that would kill all the other Caitlyn.
Thanks. Just make me sound like such a good person, you know?
You're a great person. I love hanging out with you. You're crazy as all get up.
Says you.
Yes.
Says you.
So you've been talking about Game of Thrones for a while, and we've actually talked about Game of Thrones quite often, but I've never watched the series all the way through.
Until recently.
I watched the series all the way through. This is the first time I've watched the entirety of Game of Thrones. I've only watched like episodes in the past, but now I've seen everything in its entirety. I'm heartbroken and upset and very happy, but still mostly upset at the same time at the very end of Game of Thrones. For most of you know why if you've seen the last few seasons, but we're going to try not to say negative, and there are actually some positive things I have to say about that.
At this point, since the series has been over for several years, I think we can say whatever the hell we want about it.
We can say whatever we want because everyone knows what happens.
Because all the online discourse is over, and now it's turned to other stuff like House of the Dragon.
True, but a lot of people online are like mostly still in the negatives about Game of Thrones. So I do have a lot of positives I want to talk about season 8, but at the same time, I mostly just want to keep it as a general spectrum. By the way, I know House of Dragon is out, but we're mostly going to talk about Game of Thrones first, since both of us have only watched the first episode of House of Dragon. Dragons?
Yeah, we just did, actually.
Yeah, we literally just did.
Also, disclaimer, I have watched all of the show and read all of the books, but it was many years ago, so he's actually more, like, probably accurate about it than I am.
Well, I mean, you've read the books, so you know more of the finite details.
Yeah.
I just got finished, so I know all the names, I know all the places, but I don't, like, there's some details that I'm sure I'll be missing.
I'm just going to have a lot of stupid, obscure knowledge, like, that's not correct, but you're going to, like...
You're going to be one of those, you need the glasses, like, that's not right.
I don't have my glasses. Oops, I can get my sunglasses.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. But
crap.
You're just going to have more recent knowledge of it. Mine's,
Correct.
like... years old, and I'm gonna be like, who's that guy again? What happened?
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of obscure... I mean, there's so many characters. I mean, that's kind of like the first thing that reminded me when we started watching House of Dragon is how many characters are in the first episode, but also the first season of Game of Thrones. There's so much crap going on. I don't want to like form my thoughts of House of Dragon yet because we literally just got finished with the first episode, and I need to see more because as of right now, it's okay. At best, it's not great, in my opinion.
Smith is a beautiful man.
He's a shovel. He's a shovel.
He is not a shovel. He's a beautiful man. How dare you?
Well, at least he looks like he got hit by a shovel. He just looks weird.
Now all the Doctor Who fans are going to come after you.
That's fine. Who's a fan of that show? Except the British people. Except for the people who eat muffins and drink wine in the morning. And have terrible teeth.
Oh, God. How rude.
People don't watch this show for niceness. If you do.
As I said, Matt Smith is a beautiful man.
It's okay.
So, anyways, we're going to...
There's so much stuff happening in the first episode of Game of Thrones. And then it just, like, this show has a really good balance of characters.
Are you talking about Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon?
Well, we're going to talk about mostly about Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, because you just finished it, and House of the Dragon is still new. So.
I don't want to form my opinions on House of Dragon just yet. We just started.
Yeah.
We just started with the weirdness of that series.
It's intense. That's all we're going to say.
I'm not going to spoil House of Dragon for those of you who have not seen it. For those of you who are actually listening. Hey, for those of you who are listening, again. No, Game of Thrones is rough. Game of Thrones is rough. I wasn't prepared for how rough it is because I think everyone knows that Game of Thrones, this stereotype is, medieval porn is most of what it is. And it kind of is that. Yeah. There's a lot of weirdness you got to get through. But it's also got some great stories, great characters, great writing, great elements, and some pretty tragic scenes that's going to make you ruin your day. Let's get to it real quickly. The Red Wedding.
So we're jumping right into what, season 3? Oh, God.
So I'm going to clarify something with the Red Wedding. And if you watch Game of Thrones, you know about this. And even if you haven't watched Game of Thrones, you know about this. This
Everyone knows
episode
about
broke
it.
my soul.
I just remember you texting me, like, when you were watching it, you were just like,
Dude, okay, I knew about the Red Wedding, but I didn't know who died, and I didn't know when it was going to happen.
And how brutal it is.
And how brutal it was. And I knew there was a wedding happen, but it had skipped my mind.
I mean, when we think about Game of Thrones, like, all of the major weddings that are shown, like, Daenerys,
the wedding with Joffrey, yeah.
Oh, Joffrey's wedding.
The purple wedding.
We're not even going to talk. We'll get to
that wedding.
Ramsay and Sansa's wedding.
I
will never watch that scene ever again. Anyways, but historically, most weddings in Game of Thrones are bad.
Are horrible.
Like, Daenerys and Drogo's was not that bad. People still died there, but that's like tradition.
Well,
so
it is tradition. It's also tradition for her to get, R.I.P.
Yeah, you don't need to spell it out. Like, it's Game of Thrones. It's brutal.
Yeah,
that's the way it is.
It's what that was essentially. But they fell in love, so that's almost like I know. It's like it's still bad, but it's also they fell in love. And also, how could you not fall in love with Aquaman? That sounds weird for me to say, but...
Jason Momoa is a beautiful man.
Jason Momoa. But, again, let's get back to the Red Wedding for a second. I texted you that day.
You did?
Because I was not ready for that. Again, I didn't know what episode. And as soon as there was a violin playing and you saw the slow pushing and turn of Brandon Stark's mom... I don't remember her name. Caitlyn Stark.
Yeah.
And I immediately remember, like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not emotionally ready for this.
Okay, so fun, weird, obscure knowledge. The song that starts playing, that like Catherine, like her whole tune changes, it's called "The Rains of Castamere," and the reason it's it triggers her like that is House Casimir no longer exists. They were like slaughtered. And so the song is like ironic because this house like I'm pretty sure Robert like the Baratheons or the Lannisters killed them off. So
I think it was
like,
Robert who killed them all.
I don't remember. Don't quote me on that.
I think there was a conversation between Robert and
it's mentioned in the series, but in the books they go into it a little bit more. Like the whole house was just like killed. And so that song is like ironic because it's like the rains of there's lyrics to it. I don't remember them, but like the rains of Casimir no longer fall. Like it falls on like bodies or like the ruins. Like so that's why Catelyn's like
But as soon as, and I didn't know they were going to start with the wife who's pregnant, and they just went for the kid, oh, it's starting, and I was not prepared after that, and they just started murdering, and really, like everyone died.
Rob died.
Rob Stark died. Catelyn Stark died. His wife died. His baby got stabbed.
All of their men got killed. All of their men got killed. All of the Stark, all the bannermen that were there, everyone died. Rob got his head cut off and replaced by his wolf's head.
That was the most disturbing image out of it all.
And Arya had to see it.
Yeah, Arya watched it all. And the funniest part about...
Well, she didn't watch it all. She arrived last minute and saw everyone die.
Yeah, the funniest thing about Arya's little but storytelling is that she never gets to see her family at the right time. Every time she shows up at King's Landing, her dad gets beheaded. When she shows up at the Red Wedding, her entire family, most of her family gets killed.
Her mother and her oldest brother.
Get murdered.
She doesn't see Jon for years on end.
Yeah, and everyone thinks that she's dead.
Sansa for years on end.
Yeah, we'll get to Sansa in a bit.
Poor Sansa. She goes through it.
She goes through it. That poor girl. But yeah, Red Wedding was rough, and I was not prepared for that at all. But I was very happy that, and part of me, because I knew that Arya had lived, but part of me was thinking at that moment, it's entirely possible for her to die, and I was just wrong about that information.
No.
But
Arya, man, out of all the characters that survive the show, spoilers, Arya lives. If you haven't watched the show, which at this point you probably should have. But
going all the way to Arya's...
Even if you haven't watched the show, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that who lives and dies at the very end.
Right.
Arya is probably the person that surprised me who lived. Or Sansa. Sansa, my personal opinion, she probably should have died.
Okay, so let's talk about those ending character arcs for a second, just to get those out of the way. So Arya and Sansa, I don't like where either of them ended up, to be honest with you. So not to clarify, Arya's makes no sense to me. I don't know why she chose her path, but I do get Sansa's ending. I just don't think it was handled the best way. So I want to know if you agree with me on this, and so I'll explain my opinion. I get that she suffered a lot. That poor girl, that poor sad girl suffered a lot. But here's the problem with her becoming queen, in my opinion. She did not go through the same trials and tribulations that Jon did. And by that, I mean she did not have to make the hard choices. She got after she suffered, and I have all the sympathy in the world for her suffering. She went through a lot with Ramsay Bolton. After she kills Ramsay Bolton, which is immensely satisfying, by the way, when she gets to kill him. After that, I think she kind of becomes not useless, but less interesting. Because she makes all the right choices, but they're very easy choices to make, in my opinion. Jon had to make all the hard choices, and he was hated all the time for his choices. But he made the right choices because they were right. And Jon Snow is generally a very noble character up until the last few episodes where he becomes an idiot. But because of that, I just don't think that she's the right pick to be queen. Maybe by blood, and I think she would be a good queen, but I don't think that she was given enough time to develop her leadership. And I wish that they'd done that better.
I agree. I don't think she's definitely matured since the start of the story. Like, granted, they've all aged, and she's definitely gone through some crap. So, I definitely think she's matured, but I don't think for the better.
Yeah.
I don't think her mindset is correct to be Lady of Winterfell or Queen of the North or whatever her title is. I don't remember. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think it's going to be mean of me to say, but I think she's too traumatized to be queen.
Maybe.
By birth, yes. Because Jon Jon is a whole other topic, which we will get to in a moment. But
yeah, he's not really a Stark.
No, well, he is, yes, he's a Stark, but he's also a Targaryen. Spoilers. That aren't really spoilers, but
yeah. Okay, we'll get to that.
Spoilers that aren't really
continue with Sansa.
Anyway, Sansa, I don't think has the right mindset or the right leadership. Like,
no.
She kind of just like does a really quick like 180 towards the end, and suddenly she's this like powerful, cold, ruthless leader. And I don't think that's Sansa, because at the start of the series, she's this like innocent, very sweet, kind of stupid girl.
Oh yeah, she's like completely dumb.
Goes away with age and experience, but she's very like fragile, and that's just her whole character. And she goes through some crap, and she comes out much more hardened. But is that technically the right way to go for a leader? That's not how you make a leader.
There's no leadership,
like, trauma and like bad experiences. Like
that's
not how you do it. Like Jon went about it a lot more because he did stuff, but Jon being a leader of Winterfell or like the North or even Westeros.
I think of all. Okay, so do you think that Jon should have been king at the end?
No.
Okay, so what do you think should have happened to Jon?
I think Jon should have become king of the North, because that was what he was. That was the title he was kind of given up until like season 8 when Dany came into the picture. So Bran as king seems stupid. Sorry. He's not the right choice for king. No.
I think everyone kind of agrees that Bran was... Well, it
was just out of left field. Like,
I have an unpopular opinion about that, but keep going.
So, I don't think Jon should have been like king of Westeros, king of the North. Yes, and I think it was stupid how he just ended up going back to the Wall.
Yeah.
But you wanted to say about Arya's arc, because you don't like it either.
Oh, I guess we'll go back to Arya's arc. No, I don't think... Her arc was revenge. That has always been her arc. And then she all of a sudden decided to be an adventurer? To go out into the world? That's kind of a weird switch. It seems like a switch to me. That doesn't seem like... And I thought her original arc, because this is the arc with a lot of people who are seeking revenge in Game of Thrones, is that revenge is a terrible thing and a waste of time. And that seems to be with everyone who's seeking revenge. What is it? The Mandalorian in season 4, when he seeks revenge from the Hound. Yeah, season 4.
You just said, oh, Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You mean Oberyn in the Mountain?
I forgot his name. Yeah, but
Oberyn in the Mountain.
When he took revenge for the Mountain, when he, raped and murdered his wife.
His sister.
His sister. Dag nabbit. See, I think you're getting this way better than I am.
Elia Martell, it's his sister. Yeah.
Okay. And then he got his skull crushed in by the Mountain.
Like a watermelon.
Yeah, and so many times when people are seeking revenge, like Robb Stark, seek revenge for his dad's death.
Started a whole war.
Shot by crossbows and killed, and his wife was murdered. All of that happened because he wanted revenge. People who seek revenge in Game of Thrones don't get what they want. And to a degree, Arya didn't get what she wanted, but I don't know if that translates to being an adventurer all of a sudden, and then going out into the world. That doesn't really make any sense to me.
I mean, her whole journey over to, like, Braavos and, like, training is to seek revenge. But I think through that, she matures and realizes that revenge is an option. She still goes and gets revenge on a lot of people.
Which, by the way, is a glorious thing when she gets to kill the people who killed her family at the Red Wedding.
Yes, that was beautiful.
That was awesome.
But I disagree with you. I think her arc was good because she matures past the point of just, like, mindlessly seeking revenge, like, going after all these people. And she becomes more, like, calm, cool, collected. She becomes older. That isn't to say she should have been the next Lady of Winterfell or Queen in the North, because I don't think that role suits her either.
No. She wanted to be a warrior.
I don't think her arc is perfect, but I think it's better than Sansa's. Sansa just is... It's a very quick change, and it's not a change that should have happened. Like, she should have stayed more, I guess, meek and noble, not this, like, cold, ruthless sends her sister to, like, kill people and just, like... goes after everybody.
And to be honest with you, I like where Sansa ended up. I just wish she proved herself more. She should have proven that she was a good leader. Instead of she made very easy decisions. Instead of where Jon Snow made the ultimate hard decisions, to kill people, to go against the woman he loved, to bring the wildlings in. All of these decisions proves that he was a good leader. And even though his decisions were unpopular, he did it for the greater good, and he did it because it was the right thing to do, similar like his father. He was like the one noble guy in Game of Thrones that survived all the way through.
Yeah. I think Jon actually tried to like unite people, like bring the wildlings in. He was trying to like get Dany and everyone together. Sansa was just kind of reserved from all of that. And in the end, like it was her and Jon making decisions together.
Yeah.
Like
and
fighting with each other over them, but making decisions. Yeah. And it just goes to show that like he's more mature and more adept at being a leader. Not even a king or a lord or anything, just being a leader than she is, but yet by like right, and I guess the fact that most of her family's dead, she becomes Queen of the North, Lady of Winterfell, whatever her title is.
Yeah. So I think Jon should have been king for sure. He was by far and above the best option out of anyone. But if there was going to be a second option, I don't mind Bran, to be honest with you. I think that despite the fact that he is inhuman, I think that he's just proven himself to be a very calm and collective person, and that he's never going to act out of emotion because he doesn't want anything, and he doesn't want politics, and he can see everything. And so he's always acting in the interest of something that needs to happen rather than something that he wants to happen. So in that aspect, I understand. I know there's a lot of arguments where he would be disconnected from reality, and that makes sense, but I feel like he knows how to talk to people, and he knows the human experience because of everything that he, gets to be connected and sees. So I don't think he's the worst opinion, but I agree with you. He's not a very interesting character. He's not even a good character in my opinion. I don't think Bran's a good character.
I like Bran's character. I think he's a terrible choice for king because if you know anything about the books, the Three-Eyed Ravens have always been very disconnected from society. Like they are very impartial to politics and like just the world. Yeah. They're more concerned with just like keeping the world alive. And Bran takes on that role in the end until he comes back into like the start, like into the like the politics and everything going on in Westeros. Yeah. Like he's just kind of vibing off in the wilderness for a long time. Yeah. And then when he comes back, he still maintains that like distance because he has all this power. He has these abilities and he's trying to remain impartial while helping his family. So to have him as king, smart, yes, because he is this incredible, omnipotent being, essentially, but as a person, no. Because he's supposed to be removed from everything, and I don't think he has the leadership and the mindset of a king.
I don't think so either, but... And again, that's why I think Jon should have been king, because he is the best leader. Again, other than the fact the last few episodes where he turned into an absolute moron after, sleeping with his aunt.
That dragon will do something too.
Yo, Daenerys, you messed up everything. You really did mess up.
Yeah, you did.
My boy's mind went to mush when
wouldn't yours? Like, come on. This is Dany we're talking about.
She is gorgeous.
Emilia Clarke.
Emilia Clarke's and her character who turned kind of bad after season 6. Yeah. Oof. After season 6, Daenerys kind of became a little bit insufferable for me. Partially because she disrespected my man Tyrion. Oof. Don't disrespect my man Tyrion. He's the best.
Not Peter Dinklage.
And not Peter Dinklage. Why not Peter Dinklage?
That's who plays Tyrion.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Peter Dinklage plays. He is the imp.
You know what? I think I'm the opposite of Tyrion. I don't know things, but I do drink.
I drink and I don't know things.
I drink and I don't know things. I'm the opposite.
And then I drink
of Tyrion.
Some more.
But I am kind of short. Not as short as you. You're Tyrion. But, less ugly.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks. That's somewhat of a compliment.
Thanks. I'm going to take it as such and try not to punch you in the face.
That's understandable. What was I saying? So, yeah, Daenerys is hot.
Yeah, she is. She's also crazy.
She's also crazy. What do you think of her turn at the end?
It's too sudden.
It's too sudden. Well, tell me if you agree with me. I think it worked up until she started, committing mass murder. What do you think?
I think it worked if she hadn't, burned half of King's Landing.
Yeah, there we go.
If she, her conquering most of, King's Landing makes sense. That is the power move that she was going for. Burning half of it, no. And literally over, one person's death.
Yeah.
Because in the show, at least, like, obviously there isn't a book for season 8, but, like, Daenerys as a person, she has acted rashly in the past, but burning a city of, like, millions over Missandei, no.
Especially for a character whose entire purpose in life was to free slaves.
Yeah.
And to free the people. And now she's burning the people.
Did I still enjoy her snap? Yes, because crazy equals hot sometimes, especially when she's got a dragon.
Well, now we know what your mentality is.
But I think it was too sudden. It was a big 180. Like, literally, you can in the scene where she's, like, conquered King's Landing. Like, she has King's Landing in her grasp. She's on Drogon, and she's just, like, looking around, and you can just see her, like, switch. You can see, like, the flip.
The acting was good. The acting was really
Beautiful.
good.
Beautiful.
And someone actually made a comment, and I saw a video recently about Season 8, which, by the way, I don't even hate Season 8. I think Season 8 has some really great moments, but there are some major screw-ups. Battle of Winterfell. Battle of Winterfell. It's pretty good until Arya happens. There was someone who said if Cersei did not surrender, and Daenerys had no choice but to just start destroying the city. If that happened, that would have made more sense.
It would have, but she knew that Cersei had surrendered.
Yeah, and then she just like, oh, I am now an evil villain.
She, like, just took it out. She had a lot of emotions going on, which Daenerys as a character throughout the series, she's normally calm, cool, and collected, but she has her moments where she just kind of loses it.
She definitely loses it, and she definitely see that progressing as she gets older and the series keeps getting up there.
Mm-hmm. And it's like that in the books too. Like, she has more of those moments, but she also grows as a person. She goes from, like, this meek little Khaleesi with just the Dothraki on her side to literally conquers, like, Slaver's Bay.
Yeah,
and then goes to conquer Westeros.
Yeah, one of the most satisfying scenes is when she got the Dothraki and that slave's master, and she was handing off the dragon to the slave master, and then she just said, and she revealed that she could understand him the entire time. She could speak Valyrian, and then she said Dracarys, and then pew, and like, whoa, that's great. And that was like the great shot of her and the fire happening behind her. Like that's amazing. That's great. I like that. I'll bend the knee for you. That's great.
Correction, not the Dothraki, the Unsullied.
I mean, my God.
She had the Dothraki. Sorry.
She had the Dothraki. But the Unsullied. When she married Drogo.
He's dead at that point.
Yeah, when she married Drogo, that's the Dothraki. The Unsullied are the, dudes without any, like, doing.
The Unsullied?
Yeah, the Unsullied.
Why do you have to describe them like that? How dare you?
Because I don't want to say the other word.
The pillar and the stone.
The stone.
The stones. Yes, no, that is a badass scene. Love her.
What's your favorite scene in Game of Thrones?
Ooh. Probably, like, Tyrion's trial.
Please don't say that, because that was mine.
Okay. Well, Tyrion's trial is so good. Like, that performance is great, because it's just him, like, being absolutely done with the world, and he's like, all of you, this. I'm going to say whatever I want, and you're not going to stop me.
Yeah, I should have poisoned all of you.
Yeah, he's literally like, I would kill all of you if I could, because I'm so sick of your So, it's a badass moment. My favorite scene besides that, this is probably going to be controversial, but when Cersei has to walk through the streets. Not because she's naked, but because it's such, like, it's, like, karma. It's so good because, like, she's done all these bad things, and she's finally being revealed to the world as, like, this terrible person. Yeah. And she's getting what
she
is coming to her.
For sure.
Other than her death, like, her dying, excellent also. But I really hated that death scene. It was stupid as hell.
Well, we can get to that. We can talk about that in a second, because that happens. Talks about Jaime, another great character, completely destroyed. I like that. Well, obviously, I didn't like the naked part, but I did enjoy seeing her get her just rewards. But I think that's something that Game of Thrones does really well. It gives you really bad characters, but then humanizes them, and then you kind of feel, because I kind of felt bad for her in that moment. And okay, maybe you didn't.
I was celebrating.
Screw you.
Ever since she got, like, thrown in prison, I was like, yes, she's getting it.
But there's a human element to all of these characters in that a lot of them are doing really bad things. Starting with Jaime Lannister, banging his sister, and he actually kills some of his family members and does some terrible things. But we all love Jaime Lannister up until the last few episodes of season 8, and he turns into a character who has a moral compass, and we see it slowly growing over time. The fact that he loves his brother Tyrion, helps him escape, his relationship with Brienne of Tarth, and how he matures through her, and everything that happens with their relationship, and the fact that he ends up knighting her is such a great, one of the most best moments in that episode in the show is the knighting of Brienne Tarth, and then it shows you that even bad people can have human moments, and even bad people can do good things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole religious aspect that I can get into that. I won't get into it today, but it just shows that there's a lot more to certain people than just being the bad guy and being the good guy, which is why a lot of people hate, not Theon, but what's his his uncle's name? In season 7,
don't remember
the freaking guy who
Psycho.
Yeah, the psycho guy who has all the shit.
Guy?
Yeah, him. They don't like him because he's just a bad guy.
Yeah, he's kind of crazy. He's really crazy in the books. Like he takes drugs and it's wacky. But anyways, Euron.
Euron. Hate his face.
Yeah,
it's Euron.
That's either his dad or his uncle. Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
Euron. Yeah, no, he's crazy.
But even like Theon's character, Theon starts as like an insufferable brat.
Oh yeah.
Who you just hate, but then he runs into Ramsay Bolton, and then you have so much sympathy and sadness for this character that when anything minusculely good happens to Theon, like, oh thank God.
Like when he and Sansa escaped, I was like, thank God.
Everything was going so wrong that episode. I assumed they were going to get captured, but they didn't. Like, oh, thank God.
Okay.
Thank God.
Back to Jaime. Jaime has a great character arc. One of my favorites in the show. I don't like him in the first few seasons because he's an absolute dick.
He is.
That his sister too often.
Yeah.
But getting past that, he's a good character because, like, again, it's going to sound kind of hypocritical because I said Sansa is not a good character later on because of trauma. But Jaime, like, takes his experience and takes his trauma and becomes a better person for her. He doesn't shut himself off from the world. He finally, no pun intended, gets out from under Cersei and gets his life together.
No pun intended.
Very much pun intended.
Yeah.
But he starts to think for himself and he keeps his oath to Caitlyn to get Sansa and Arya home, and he sends Brienne after her. He gives her the armor. He gives her Oathkeeper, the sword.
Yeah, he even saves her from the... he goes back, risks his life, saves her from the bear. When it's dishonoring to him with all of these people who have dishonored him and are humiliating for him, he saves her anyway. They
have a great relationship, and part of his arc, him becoming a better character, is through Brienne.
Yeah.
Who I love. She can do no wrong.
Brienne of Tarth is one of my favorite characters. Okay, so let's let favorite characters in Game of Thrones.
Tyrion, Brienne, love Arya. Jon annoys me, but I love him too. But Dany, of course, because dragons.
I think Dany slowly fell kind of from my favorite characters list. I still like her, don't get me wrong. I think she's a good character, but I think she's not nearly as complex as a lot of the other characters. Because even with Jon Snow, who started off as a very simple character, he made his character a whole lot more endearing because of the strong choices that he made, and that's what made his character so endearing, is because he is one of the guys who is literally willing to jump into the firestorm and it's the right thing to do. Let's do it. He is so willing to go against his own code, his own family, his own everybody to make the right decision. Yeah. Not the decision that's benefiting everybody, the right decision.
Plus, he is very selfless. He sacrifices. He literally dies at one point.
Yeah.
Which, not his fault, but he's very self-sacrificing. He is willing to die for a cause, and he's great. And he does die at some point, but. A character like that, when his first thought is not of himself, is just a great character. He annoys me in some aspects because I think he's kind of stupid.
Well, the ending decisions made him insufferable because they just became blind to Dany's like destruction and habits.
They really did, no.
And okay, so the ending thing, okay, there are things about season 8 that I do really love, like the Battle of Winterfell, up until Arya kills the Night King, which is so stupid in my opinion.
You didn't care about the super dark shots?
That so much. But I loved the Battle of Winterfell otherwise, and there was so many stuff about season 8 that I really did like, the cinematography, the acting, Viserys' death. I actually dug that.
Viserys' death?
Yeah, Viserys' death.
He dies in season 1.
What?
Viserys?
Viserys.
You talking about Varys?
Varys! Dad, nabbit! Names!
Varys. I saw his death coming, and I really didn't care when he died. He was not an interesting character for me.
What are you... he's one of my favorite characters. I love him. Like Viserys, I did. I love him. He was one of my favorite characters, and he had one of the best relationships with Tyrion. And so entirely because, again, he's a complex character in that he doesn't do the straight-up moral things. He just makes the tough decisions specifically for the realm. He doesn't have a want like Bran. Like Bran, he doesn't really have a want because, he doesn't have the thunder down under. He entirely has put his own wants aside for the realm, and that's an interesting character in my opinion, just because, he does all the generically wrong decisions, but it eventually goes to a point where, I see where you're going. You're trying to build your decisions to make a decision that's better for the realm, and I like him because of that.
I think I might be wrong. At one point, either in the books or in the show, he says something along the lines of he serves the realm, not the king.
Yeah.
Which, yes, that is his entire character. He serves, Westeros. He serves the kingdom, not whoever sits on the throne.
Exactly.
Which I think in the end was his downfall. He kind of just does whatever he wants without thinking about how it will affect the people around him, except maybe Tyrion, because he does obviously care for Tyrion.
Yeah.
But he's an interesting character, I will say that, but I don't like him.
I understand.
So.
I entirely disagree. I think he's one of my favorite characters. But
again,
back to Jon real quick. His death should have been the turning point for Tyrion. It may not have been the turning point for Jon because he didn't know him as much, but it definitely should have been the turning point for Tyrion.
Agreed.
As soon as Daenerys, wow.
Danny!
You started this episode saying that I might know more than you, and I proceeded to butcher everyone's name.
Okay, you just are more recently. You have more recent knowledge. I just am picky and...
Yeah. But, what is it? Jon, who was I? What is happening? Steve, help me.
Commercial break for Jacob's inability to speak.
We're back from the break. So as soon as Daenerys starts making those horrendous decisions, especially after committing mass genocide, Jon should have turned immediately. But he doesn't. He still makes excuses after the fact.
But then
he's an idiot.
But then he kills her.
But he was an idiot all the way up until that point.
He does the right thing.
You're my queen. And I know that's a meme.
At the 11th hour.
Yes.
Just alright then. Okay, side note. Since we were talking about Theon earlier, I hated his death. I was so upset.
I disagree. Let's talk about this.
He should not have died for Bran. Because that's how he died. He went after the Night King for Bran.
I disagree.
It was stupid. He should have done it for Sansa. No, because he doesn't care about Bran.
True.
He has never cared about Bran. It is Sansa who he is loyal to. Sansa and Jon.
I'll tell you why he should have done it for Bran. I agree it would have been better if he did it for Sansa.
It just didn't seem noble.
It did seem noble. I'll tell you why. Because Bran was the person that he pretended to kill.
That is true.
And so he owed that debt to Bran.
That's true. I forgot about that.
And so he's essentially kind of redeeming his character arc. Kind of similar to Jaime, but not as hardcore. So Theon owes him that. And he went out defending the Starks, something that he swore to destroy. He said, I'm going to go out for the Starks. I am going to risk my life. And I loved that part about his character. And I loved that he saved his sister. And I loved his ending. And I loved that he got to redeem himself with what's her name? Redhead Stark. Sansa. Man. And that she cared for him at the end, and that she was sad and she got to mourn him at the end, and that was so awesome. And I loved his character arc and ending and what they did with his character at the end. I love Theon. He's great.
Was sad he died. I think he should have died. I still think he should have gone out defending Sansa because it would have been better. Sansa is who he really came back to himself as Theon for. He was Reek because of Ramsay, and then he came back to him as a person, as a real person.
Yeah, for Sansa.
Am I so happy that he sacrificed himself for the Starks? Yes. Am I sad he died? Yes.
100% sad he died. I think
rest in peace.
He definitely should have died, but I am so happy that in his final moments he redeemed himself from Sansa, Bran, and Jon, and he got to apologize to them for the things that he's done for them and redeem himself in their eyes and redeem himself in his sister's eyes because he definitely owed her a debt. And that was a great ending to his character, in my opinion, and something that I think season 8 did a really good job with.
Still sad he died.
I completely get it.
Love him. He went through a lot.
What's your least favorite scenes in all of the seasons?
Sansa and Ramsay's wedding night. I can't even talk about it. I watched it once when the episode came out and never again because I am traumatized by it. Like, every woman, if you've seen it, I don't think anyone could watch it more than once. That or this Jaime and Cersei after Joffrey died.
Oh no, we're not even gonna bring that up.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Clarification: Jaime and Cersei when Joffrey died. And that's all you need to know. We're not going to talk about it.
We're not going to talk about those two scenes that I will never watch again. And I will not talk about either.
I was going to say the 3 scenes that I fast-forwarded through. I didn't fast-forward through any of the Red Wedding, but I did fast-forward through these 3 scenes. The 2 you just brought up, and the one scene I just could not watch. It hurt my soul. The burning of Stannis' daughter.
Oh, yeah, because
I couldn't watch it. It was too much.
I think they did. It is a really gut-wrenching scene, but they shot it really well because they just focused on like Stannis and her mother, and I don't remember her face, but the Red Witch, whatever her face is.
The red woman. In that moment, I hated her.
Melisandre,
yes,
something like that.
And she had her. It's not redeeming. But she had her moment in season 8 when she lit up the wall and she lit up the swords, and those were some pretty cool moments for her. But she deserved to be killed by what's his name? Oh, I forgot his name. He's my other favorite character. I don't remember his name.
The Onion Knight with no fingers?
The Onion Knight.
I forget. I don't remember his name.
He deserved to kill her. And
I wish she just walked off into the distance and turned to dust.
And I think they were going for some kind of poetic scene with that, and I think it worked for the scene. But at the same time, he should have killed her. They were trying to redeem her, and they didn't redeem her enough to give her... She burned a kid. She's past redemption.
They tried to redeem her towards the end, like, make her, like, bring back Jon, like, get her on their side, sort of. They didn't redeem her enough for her to give her a peaceful death like that.
Yeah.
Granted, she died. Yay, she didn't survive.
Yeah.
But...
She went out on her own terms, and she shouldn't have.
Yeah, no.
I was so hoping that she would turn around, and he would just stab her in the face or something.
I would have loved it.
Just anything. And
Who
again,
knows if that would have killed her, though? Like, she got some magic.
I know, but at the same time, she didn't even know she could raise someone from the dead until the plot desired her to raise Jon from the dead, which even so, I'm fine with.
I mean, Jon Snow, come on.
Jon Snow's... Yeah, bring Jon Snow
Jon
back.
had to live.
Jon had to live. So Daenerys could see the cuts on his empty ship and say, hey, that's interesting.
That's pretty sexy.
You want a canoodle?
You want a canoodle?
Do you want a canoodle?
Do you want a canoodle? Yeah, no. Yeah, no, those 2 scenes, I can't really think of any others. I mean, Theon's, like, maiming is pretty bad. They don't show it, but, like, the aftermath just, like, kind of broke something in me. I was, like, up until that point, I hadn't really sympathized with Theon. He was kind of a douche.
Yeah.
But then, like, Ramsay gets a hold of him, and I'm just like, God. Also... Side note, another random obscure knowledge. Need to put a title. Just
now you know.
Caitlyn's obscure knowledge. Yes, now you know.
Knowing's half the battle.
In the books, it is not Sansa who marries Ramsay.
Really? Who is it?
It is one of her maids. I don't know her name.
Oh, so they just decide the show hates us.
They don't even pass her off as Sansa. They pass her off as Arya. So Ramsay thinks he's marrying Arya.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I don't think they really talk about, like, the wedding night. That was definitely a creative choice by the directors that I do not agree with.
I don't want to see that ever.
Yeah, no.
Especially to Sansa.
But in the books, they talk about, like, he mistreats her. It's horrible. Like, he tortures her. Like, but they don't go into detail about it. As far as I remember. Maybe I blocked that out because, trauma. But
and I didn't really want to see that happen to Sansa either because Sansa had already suffered enough.
Yeah, no. That was a bit much. Sorry.
Ironically enough, like probably her best time was being married to Tyrion, who was the only person who treated her honorably.
Honestly, yeah, like he left her alone, let her do her own thing, like was like, you are my wife in name only. Use that power. Do with it what you will, and be safe.
And he walked with her and was kind to her. And like, I really like Tyrion and Sansa's relationship.
They have a great relationship. And I'm sad we didn't get to see more of it. Because, like, after, like, they kind of separate, they don't really see each other much. I don't even, like, very much at all after that. They see each other for, like, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Total for after that. Like, I don't even remember. I think the next time they see each other, like, Tyrion is in service to Dany. And this is,
that
like...
is true.
Season 7, season 8.
And Dany and her never really got along at all.
Two very powerful women. Dany's better, though. So.
Daenerys...
I mean, at that point in the series?
Yeah, well, we'll say more successful, because Daenerys had, like, 3 kingdoms under her belt.
She did. She showed up to Westeros. Sup?
Yo, I got a dragon. What do you got?
Well, she had 3 dragons at that point.
Yeah, you got an Alabama hippie for a king or a queen. I got dragons.
Yeah, they were like, she was like, while y'all were tearing yourselves apart with the Civil War, I was conquering half of Essos.
Mm-hmm. I was getting slaves to revolt and have the coolest looking swords ever.
And burning Dothraki leaders and taking over. That was pretty badass.
And walking out from the fire. All of those scenes are great.
Her walking out from the fire is just powerful. The first time with the dragons, awesome. Second time when she just, like, takes control of, like, the entire Dothraki, badass.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, even though Season 8 was a bit disappointing, overall, I really love Game of Thrones, and I kind of want to watch it again, but I only want to watch up to Season 4. Because I think after Tyrion's trial, the show is good, but not nearly as good as after the Tyrion's trial, and after he escapes.
I think after Tyrion's trial is when it takes more of a turn to, okay, now it's focusing on Dany trying to, like, get to Westeros and conquer. Because up until that point, she's just kind of, like, fiddling around, like, trying to get allies, trying to build up her power. And then, like, there's Robb's rebellion, like, that all ends. Joffrey dies.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Joffrey's death for a sec. This kid deserved to die so badly.
Oh, he died so nicely.
The two most satisfying deaths in all, Joffrey and Ramsay. Specifically because Ramsay gets the crap beaten out of him by Jon in the very beginning, like just pummeled constantly, and then Sansa gets to, like, kill him with the hounds, with his own hounds.
Ironic,
glorious,
beautiful, loved it.
Joffrey, and they really hit the nail in the coffin with Joffrey when he just was constantly berating Tyrion and making his life a living hell, and then he just like he coughed once, and like, oh, is he gonna die? And then he coughed twice. Like, oh, he's gonna die! Yes. And there's a bad thing for me to say, like, to ask another human being to die. But TV show, and it's a terrible kid. You would have wished the same thing. Watch Game of Thrones. You'll be on the same page with me. This is brought to you by Jacob and Steve. Have a great day.
Jacob and Steve. Okay.
And Steve.
Yeah.
No, I'm holding you in the promo image for GoodNight Take 1. You are, for all intents and purposes, my bro. What's up, dude? I'm gonna fist bump your tooth.
Joffrey and Ramsay's death, very satisfying. Littlefinger's not how I wanted him to die, but I was very happy he died.
He should have died for sure.
I wish Sansa would have killed him. I mean, she ordered Arya to do it, but I wish she had done it herself. But I also know her as a character, she couldn't have done it. She's not that character. She doesn't do her own dirty work.
No,
she really doesn't. Like, whether it's the hounds, whether it's Arya, she has other people do her killing, which I admire. She's a badass. I do, regard.
And I appreciate her in that. Again, I wish she actually became a better leader, but at the same time, I do like that she got to kill Littlefinger in that little twist near the end of her speech, like, how do you plead for your crimes? Lord Baelish. It's like,
I had seen that coming since, like, the first season when he betrayed Ned. I was like... And literally, like, if you think about it, Peter is the whole reason, like, everything happened. Like, because he betrayed Ned. And Ned got killed for it. And that started Robb's rebellion and everything after that. So... That's true. Him dying in the end was just, like... satisfying. Poetic, because it was just, you started all this and now you're gonna answer for it.
I wish that he died a different way, because I do think that a while back Lord Baelish was one of the most interesting characters and the most one of the most entertaining characters, at least for me. He was a terrible person, don't get me wrong, but he was very entertaining to watch. Later on, he didn't have the same oomph. After he pushed Lady Catelyn's sister out of a window,
that was
or out of the hole in the ground. After that, he became less interesting.
I mean, he did her beforehand. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was loud.
That was. That was loud.
That was rough. I don't want to. Yeah.
He is a very interesting character, but he kind of got kind of meh later because he kind of just puts his own ambitions aside and he's like, I will serve Sansa. And I'm like, you have a weird fetish, my guy.
They're all related. Fetish for family.
Fetish for Catelyn's family, yeah, because he loved her, married her sister, tried to her daughter. So, it's kind of nasty. And then he marries her off to Ramsay. Like, bro, what are your... He's got some weird schemes.
He's working his own ambitions.
He's got some weird schemes, and I don't like it. And I'm glad he died.
Yeah. I mean, this entire show is just for the self-interest and the sins of other people, and I really like that it just shows that there's really no moral high ground in this series.
Nope.
And and that's why I love Jon Snow so much, because he really is kind of the moral high ground, and at the end, they just did him dirty.
Oh, yeah.
They sent him off. They sent him in jail for, saving the Seven Kingdoms, and then they sent him off to the north, which, granted, he probably is happy there, but at the same time, like, he deserved better.
I mean, he low-key, like, asked for it. Like, he didn't want to be king. Like, he would have taken it if there had been no other choice, but he didn't want to be king, and so, like, him going back to the Wall was probably the best thing for him, because that's where, like, he felt the most content.
Yeah.
And, like, he belonged, was Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
And, like, he is going to do, if they make a future show, he's going to do great things for that Night's Watch, because they were crap when he got to them, so.
But and this is a bit of a spoiler, because this is not 100% a spoiler, but it's a bit of a spoiler. There's, in the House of Dragon, there is something that somebody says to one of the queens that's Targaryen, that said, you will have a prince, your descendant will be a prince, and his story will be a story of ice and fire.
A Song of Ice and Fire.
A Song of Ice and Fire, and they're talking about Jon and his wasted opportunity as a prince.
Yeah. I mean, Song of Ice and Fire is the original series name.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty cool how they tied that in there. So are we now switching over to talking about House of Dragon and what?
Welcome back from the edit part 5. What were we talking about?
We were gonna talk
House of Dragon.
Very
Dragon
briefly
House.
on
Steve's house. He looks like a dragon, but with like longer teeth.
He's a saber-toothed tiger.
He was the size of the dragon that was, in the older Game of Thrones, because their dragons were all about this size.
Oh yeah, when they talked about when was size.
It's canon.
Yes, because they say like some of the later dragons, their skulls were like the size of cats.
Yeah. I don't like House of Dragon so far. I'm not gonna lie.
It's intense. Okay. It's a lot for the first episode.
It's okay.
There was a major trigger warning for like women in general, especially like pregnant women.
Gross. No, the scene. Not pregnant women.
Sorry, I was.
Pregnant women disgusting.
I was so shocked. I was like, "Excuse me."
Pregnant women are disgusting.
I was like, "Excuse me." I actually like it.
I'm happy there are things I like, but not much.
I mean, it feels very Game of Thrones. It feels like a Game of Thrones show. Like, it feels nice. I don't know.
It feels nice.
It feels nice. I like it. I mean, it is based, unlike Season 8, which I'm going to be a little controversial for a second. Unlike Season 8, House of the Dragon is based off of one of George R.R. Martin's books, Fire and Blood, which is like the early histories, well, not the early histories, the history of the early Targaryen rulers, like the first 200 years or so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm happy about that because I didn't like Season 8 not being based off of a book, and I don't know if I'll ever get that book, and I'm really sad about it.
Yeah.
But I like it so far. I also love Matt Smith, so,
Shovel-face Matt Smith.
I think there are some interesting points, like they do change some of the characterizations, but that's just creative license with any show. And of course the scene that we're not going to talk about. Major trigger warning, it's a very traumatic birth, that's all we're going to say. So.
Had to fast forward through the entire scene.
It just kept flipping back and forth between the tourney and that, and I was just like, the whole time, so. But I like it so far. I think it's interesting because, I think a lot of people think that up until the Mad King, Dany's father the Targaryens were like absolute rulers, like they were great. There was no match to their power, but the show is kind of at the point very early on in the Targaryens' reign where start to go down and like things start to go downhill. So if you've read Fire and Blood, you know what I'm talking about, because if you know anything of the history of like Westeros and the Targaryens, like crap's gonna go down in this season. So yeah,
well, to be honest with you, I don't 100% think it feels like Game of Thrones to me. It doesn't, because there is some political scheming, but some of these characters are not as well defined as I feel like they were in the first episode. And I'm speaking from a very new Game of Thrones fan. I remember watching the first episode, and all the characters felt very well defined.
Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon?
Game of Thrones.
Okay. Yeah.
I could tell every character apart. I knew what every character's motive was, and I can tell that every character had a personality trait. Some of the now, what's his name? The Targaryen that you have a crush on, Shovelface? Daemon Targaryen. I like him the best because he seems to have the most interesting character so far. He seems to have the most going on with his character. I'm not a huge fan of what's-her-face.
Rhaenyra,
Targaryen.
The daughter, the princess?
There's not a lot going on with her other than, I don't know what she wants other than to ride a dragon all day. She just seems like a basic... very, very basic. Like she doesn't. I don't know her wants. I don't know her needs. I don't know her as a character yet. And maybe that needs to go on, and I'll learn more about her, and that probably is it. But at the same time, she doesn't seem very interesting as a character, and neither do really anybody else. I don't really feel really interested in anybody other than Shovelface.
Daemon.
Yeah.
Well, I think they do that on purpose because the whole first episode, spoilers, focuses on like Daemon. Them trying to prevent him from being like heir to Viserys. Like they like everyone, nobody likes him except Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
I think we'll see more of her character. I'm excited because like she's in a position of power that she doesn't want, and she's never been lined up for. Because like I think thus far her character seems she's very resigned to her position as firstborn but not heir, and now all of a sudden she's thrust into this position as heir against her will, when all she wants to do is go off and pretty much be a lesbian and ride a dragon, which I can get behind.
And I just don't dig it. I don't like her so far, and I would, and maybe it will continue, and she'll prove to be a better, more interesting character. But I feel like writing her in that position, not in my opinion, I think it just takes out. I just think it takes out any intrigue out of her character. I think it takes any urgency out of her character, and there's no real problem with her becoming queen, other than the fact that she's a woman, other than the fact that she's the first Targaryen woman to sit on the throne. There's no real problem that she possesses with that. And I wish that they would narrow in on that, or explain it further, or explain to her what she really needs to go through and suffer through, and show her reaction to those things, because I'm not getting that so far. And maybe we'll get it, but I don't get it right now.
I hope, because thus far I think it's pretty good. But
yeah, maybe a little better, but I don't like it right now.
It might go downhill. It might get better. We don't know.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it, though, because I love Game of Thrones, and I love the Targaryens in particular, and having their history is so cool. So
I hope it's good. I will say, if not, I'm just gonna go watch Game of Thrones season 1 through 4 again, because that was the best season.
That is fair. Yeah.
I'm gonna end the podcast right now because Steve's getting sleepy. Steve needs to go to bed. I need to put him to sleep and rest his cold, dead eyes.
He doesn't even have eyes.
He has eyes. He has cold, dead eyes. Right there.
Where?
Right there.
Bullshit.
Right there. Trust me, it's right there. Anyway, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you did listen to the podcast, thank you for watching, subscribing, so on and so forth. Yippity yeehaw. Caitlyn, thanks for coming on the podcast and talking nonsense Game of Thrones stuff with my face.
Of course, it's not old news or anything. So.
It's not old news. It's fun news, and I do appreciate you coming on and showing off your awesome boots. Their boots, and you can almost reach that, but unfortunately you're short. Hey!
Do not get the other camera angle for this.
Wait.
Yeah.
High five the boot.
Thanks for having me on. It's not like I haven't been waiting for like 2 years to be on.
I know, right? It's been waiting forever to actually get you on the podcast. Thank you so much. Ernesto, my dude, roll those credits.